Hey guys, welcome to the weekly analysis video. Today's date is the 25th of March 2018 and we're going to be going over the charts for the next week and what we expect to happen. However, to start with, we're going to look at the news for the past week so that we can understand what happened in the news last week and how that affected currencies, and that will help us decide what we want to trade this week. So as you can see on the screen at the moment, we have all the high impact news for last week for GBP and USD. And I'm going to go over these pretty quickly and explain what each of them are basically and what the effect was. So obviously last week we had the G20 meetings and the FOMC, which had a pretty big role. But to start things, we can see that on Tuesday at 9:30 we had the GBP CPI year-on-year numbers. CPI obviously being the consumer price index. This came out slightly lower than was forecast. It was forecast 2.8%, came out at an actual of 2.7%. So it's not a massive miss there. It was 0.3% lower than the previous, and it was holding at about 3% or thereabouts in the last couple of months. So it was slightly disappointing, but it's not the worst in the world. Coming into Wednesday, however, we did have the average earnings index, which came out at 2.8% versus 2.6% expected, which was obviously a pretty nice increase against the 2.7% previous, which is obviously quite good for GBP. That would have strengthened it up a little bit. And then on Thursday for GBP, we had the retail sales coming at 0.8 versus 0.4 expected, which is huge. That's double what it was expecting against the revised minus 0.2 previous. So again, this was quite strong. Also on Thursday at about lunchtime, we had the MPC official bank rate votes, and we was expecting a 9-0 here, where we was expecting 9 votes to just hold the interest rate where it is. However, what actually happened was only 7 people in the MPC voted for interest rates to stay where they are, and 2 voted for a hike in the interest rate. So that was not what we was expecting at all. Market had a little bit of a reaction to that. Obviously, we was expecting no one to vote for that, but we actually had 2. And then the last thing for GBP was we had the official bank rate, which was 0.5% versus 0.5% expected, so nothing really significant there. We then had USD with a minus 2.6 million versus 2.6 million expected on crude oil inventories. We had some FOMC statements and the federal funds rate, which came out as expected. And it wasn't until Friday where we had the USD core durable goods orders month on month, which came out at 1.2% versus the 0.5% expected, with a minus 0.2 revised previous, which is obviously a massive increase, which is great. That strengthened up the US dollar for the last half of Friday, and that's likely to carry over onto this week. So with this in mind, obviously you can see that we got the strong US dollar from Friday, strong GBP for the numbers throughout the week. As you can see for Euro, we had Italian industrial productions come out worse than expected, Italian trade balance worse than expected, Euro trade balance worse than expected, the German PPI month on month, which was worse than expected. So all of these really formed a picture of the euro not being so great last week. Now, of course, we've had a strong euro for a little while, so this has been like a stop to that, really. I don't know if this is going to continue, if we're going to see the euro decline and be much weaker. We might just get a short-term weakness play from it. So let's also have a look at what news we're going to have this week that could propel the markets. There isn't a huge amount of news, as you can see, nothing at all on Monday. On Tuesday at 2 PM, we have the USD CB Consumer Confidence coming out. On Wednesday at 12:30 PM, USD, we have the final GDP quarter on quarter, as well as at 2:30 for USD, the crude oil inventories, some big ones there for Wednesday. And Thursday, we had the GBP current account. So definitely a much slower week here in terms of news. But let's go into the charts and have a look at the technicals for this week. One more thing to note before we actually dive into the charts is that this week is going to be a 4-day week. We have a bank holiday on Friday for Easter, and if it's going to be a bank holiday, there's going to be a lot less people trading, a lot less big institutions, and so it's going to be a much slower day. And news-wise, there isn't a huge amount going on Monday, and so that's just something to keep an eye out for. It might be a slower week, however, Wednesday and Thursday are going to be our best days. So it's just something to keep an eye on. It's not going to be the fastest week in the world, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday might give us some good opportunities. So with all that being said, obviously we know we have a strong GBP, and we have no news for GBP until Thursday this week, so we're going to be playing Monday to Thursday just based on last week's sentiment of GBP. Now we know that we had a strong-ish dollar from Friday as well, so who knows, maybe Monday might consolidate on here. But what we can see is that we have our strongest resistance coming in at 142.65, and then our strongest support that's coming in, or the soonest support, is 140.32. We have our moving averages coming up now to around this support zone, which will obviously just give more support. But essentially from the lows down here, which I'll draw in yellow, those two, essentially, we're just trapped in a zone up here. Now it does look like this is a rejection off of the top of this zone. However, if you look very recently, this has just been a strong uptrend all the way up. We could push up higher past the Thursday high and actually come up to these highs again. Well, the other thing you might see is that when we open up, we come down, break the lows of these candles here, maybe even break the lows of the week around this area and just head straight down to the bottom of the zone again. Although, of course, this is going to require a very weak GBP, so maybe that's something we can look for on Wednesday if we get a miss on the numbers and it weakens GBP, especially if the USD numbers in the earlier part of the week are stronger. But we'll just have to wait and see. On Monday, don't trade this. We don't know which way it's going to go. The best you could do is use a London breakout strategy to try and see which way London wants to bid it from the news on Friday. Because, of course, as we said, we do have some room to the upside and there's plenty of room to the downside, although it's much harder for it to go down based on all of the chop around here. And so your safest bet really is just to leave it on Monday. It kind of is due a pullback to moving averages as well, so if it does give you a short signal, it could just be a false one down to the moving average only. When price moves in the market, what you really want if you want to get into a trade on it is some news to back it up, and so we don't have any of that until Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So in my opinion, leave it until some of those numbers come out and then use those numbers to decide the direction that you want to trade this during this week. I'm not trying to predict which way this is going to go this week because obviously I can't predict the future, but I'm just going to give you the numbers for your take profits and stop losses for both directions that it might move. And so of course if it does move to the upside, you have the 142.55 mark. And of course if it goes to the upside, which we drew out here, it could go to 142.65. Your stop loss is obviously going to probably be below here, Thursday and Friday's lows. But for a more conservative stop loss, you could put it below these lows here, down at the 138.63 mark. However, a very significant point actually here is the 140 mark, which comes in almost at these lows here really, where the moving average is now. In my opinion, a stop loss below 140 is fine. If we come back down below 140, then we're just going to be going down to 139.50, 139, 138.50, 138. However, if we, come to 140 and then head back up, it's very likely we're going back to 141, 142. So for the upside play, we're on 141.35 at the moment. 141.50 should be nice and easy. That's just going to be where we have the closing prices here. It's very likely to then just come up to 142, would probably break through there because as you can see the support and resistance doesn't come in until 142.55. But of course 142 even isn't going to be that significant because 142.65 is where this resistance comes in at. And that's really where we're looking to target is 142.65 to the upside. If all of the numbers go our way for an upside move, you might even see a break of 142.65 where you can then look for 143 and 143.50. However, don't get dragged in long too soon because if price does come up above here and do break out to the upside, it's obviously going to come back down to retest this significant area before it heads up further. So wait for this retest, don't enter just on the break because it could just be a false breakout like we had here. And you do not want to get caught in that because you're just going to get stopped out. So guys, just to recap that, if we are going to be going to the upside, you want to target 142.65, and if we're going to the downside, it's pretty clear we're going down to 137.98. So call it the 138 even mark with 139 even in the middle. But of course that does require a break of 140 even, so don't even think about shorting this until we break through and close below 140. Otherwise you're likely to just get caught out and it will bounce back up again. Next up guys, we obviously have Euro USD, and you can see this is a very ugly chart for the last couple of weeks here. All we've been doing is consolidating in this zone. Very unclear as to where this one wants to go, especially in the last week. It's just been down and then up by the exact same amount. Tried to break to the upside a little bit, but ended up closing way below anyway and is now making a second push higher. This one is going to be extremely hard to trade. We all know that trading in a zone is the hardest thing to trade because price doesn't really follow any rules, it just does what it wants. And so your only bet really is to wait for the USD numbers because there's no Euro news this week, so just wait for the USD numbers on Tuesday and Wednesday. Use those to your advantage so that you can see which way Euro USD starts to move from there. And then you could follow that, but you're still in consolidation, so it's unpredictable which way it's going to go anyway. The most favoured move is that we have this resistance, which is actually now support currently, at the 123.38 mark, and we are above there currently. So we could expect to see price actually move to the upside, especially if we get some weak USD news. If we do get strong USD news though, then we'd have to play it to the downside. I can't see anywhere really that we would play this to the downside. We'd be going down to our support down here, which comes in at 122.38, but see how much chop is in this zone. Trying to trade from in here is going to be almost impossible. I would completely ignore it. The only way you could really trade this, in my opinion, is if instead of trading it down to that zone, you wait for price to come down to the zone, break it, come up, retest, and then head down further. that's pretty much going to be your play from here. Can I see it breaking through this zone and then retesting within the week? Probably not. It's going to be a slower week and we're missing Friday this week. So really, in my opinion, unless we get some news that makes USD a lot weaker and we can go long on this, then just ignore it for the week. This short play isn't going to happen for us. But for those of you that are aggressive and really want to get in on a few pips on this, you can short it down to this area that we said about before at 122.43. It's just not really recommended. It's going to be quite risky for you. Okay guys, and last but not least, we have USD JPY, and as we know, USD JPY is a little bit of a different currency. It doesn't quite behave like the rest. On a purely technical level, we've obviously broken our support here, which is now resistance at 105.42. And so from a technical perspective, we obviously wait for it to break, come down a little bit, come up to retest, and then on the retest here, we can look to get short. However, until something actually happens to cause it to reverse and come up and retest, you know, who knows how far this will drop. If we actually scroll out and look into past data a little bit, we can see that it's not until about the 100.31 mark that we actually get any support. You could argue that there's some around here at the 102.78 mark. However, pretty much until the bottom there, it could be free fall. We're obviously going to get little retracements, but we want a retracement to a strong support or resistance zone if we want to get in on a short. And of course, in this scenario here, that is going to be this point, which requires a catalyst. It's not really going to be USD, because USD JPY isn't just driven by just USD. And so as much as you'll hate to hear it, it's another one that you just have to wait out throughout the week until we get this entry, and then you can look to go short. In terms of RSI at the bottom, you know, we're not overdone on the downside. This could still continue down way further. It's not that far from the moving average zone either, which is another thing that would show it's overdone. And so this could easily drop all the way down to here, or even all the way down to our 102.78 mark. Really, this week, all I'm going to be looking at trading is GBP USD. That's pretty much all I'm going to be looking at for the week. So guys, if you're not already in our free group chat on Telegram, you should definitely join it. The link will be in the description. We all share analysis and talk about trades and help each other out. And we also post some free signals in there every now and again. However, for those that are really serious about trading and want to learn our strategies and get VIP trading signals, where we'll provide you with about 2 to 4 signals every single day that you can copy and make profit from, then you can ask me either on Telegram or Instagram, both are in the description, and we can give you access to that VIP training program, which, believe it or not, is actually free. Just ask us for details about it and we'll get you set up with it. I hope you all have a great trading week, and I'll see you here next week.